all, I'm pretty sure you just murdered a few people. You know, I've never been interested in Fast and Furious. I always thought the movies were just dumb action films with cars. But funny enough, it wasn't until Paul Walker's death that I actually started watching the movies. Yes, it took someone's death for me to actually be interested in this series. But anyways, I decided to watch all the Fast and Furious movies, and by all of them, I mean 5, 6, and 7, because honestly, I don't really feel like watching 7 movies, especially since half of them aren't that good. So when I finally sat down and watched these movies, it turns out that yes, these movies are incredibly dumb action films, but they are so entertaining. So I thought I'd review these movies all in one video. So here we go, the Fast and Furious retrospective. Kinda. If there's one thing you need to know about these movies is that they're incredibly dumb, and I mean really dumb. These movies are completely self-aware, which means you have to be in the right mindset to watch these movies.
That's the most hilarious. Hold on a second, I'm gonna kill him. We were like this, we were like, oh, let's go kill us. No. We were like, oh, what's his plan to get out of this one? Okay.
These movies are incredibly fun to watch, and that's why I think it's important to be in the right mindset when watching these movies. With that out of the way, let's get to Fast 5. This one is considered the one that reinvigorated the series and one of the best, and after watching it, yeah, it's pretty good, but it's not my favorite. The plot of the movie is pretty simple in that it's a heist movie where the entire movie is that they're trying to steal a shitload of money from this one guy, who's a big drug lord and basically runs Rio. I like this movie's plot. It's simple and to the point. It also has The Rock chasing Vin Diesel and his crew the entire movie, trying to catch them. So in a way, it's also a chase movie. Is that a term? And The Rock is absolutely a delight to watch. He is entertaining in every scene he's in. The action scenes are absolutely the best part of the movie because they're so retardedly awesome. And the best part is that you can actually see what's happening. There's no shaky cam, quick cuts. It's all shot wide and stable to where you can see what's happening. With a lot of action movies recently having really terrible action sequences, for this series to actually have good action scenes, it's pretty impressive. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not the best action scenes I've ever seen. But for a big budget mainstream action series, I expected the action scenes to be really horribly edited and really confusing, like the Transformers movies. Speaking of Transformers, a lot of people compare the Transformers movies to Fast and Furious and ask, why do people hate Transformers but love Fast and Furious? I mean, they do have a point. They're both incredibly stupid, self-aware action films. But for some reason, people hate Transformers but love Fast and the Furious. Why is that? Well, I think I know why. First off, the Transformers movies are way too damn long. Like, really, does Transformers 4 need to be over 2.5 hours long? The movies have so much padding and terrible pacing that they end up feeling longer than what they really are. The Fast and Furious movies, on the other hand, aren't needlessly long. I mean, yeah, they're all 2 hours, but the story and pacing actually fits the runtime. Also, the Transformers movies are like filled with action, which surprisingly can get really tiring. I mean, really, you can cut like 30 minutes out of Transformers 4, and not only would it not hurt the story, but it would actually be better. Also, in Transformers, the action sequences are really confusing. It's just a bunch of nonsense, and it doesn't help that all the Transformers look the same. Like, who exactly are we looking at? Are these the good guys or the bad guys? Also, the characters in Fast and Furious are way better than any of the characters in Transformers. I mean, they're not the best characters in cinema, but they're miles better than Transformers. Case in point, Fast and Furious is better than Transformers. Moving on. Overall, I would say Fast 5 is an incredibly entertaining movie. The characters are likable, the build up to the heist is pretty entertaining, and the action sequences are insane. I'd say check it out. Fast and Furious 6. Surprisingly, this one's actually my favorite, which is funny because you'd think Furious 7 or Fast 5 would be my favorite, but no, 6 is the one that won me over. I just thought this one was a lot more ridiculous and thus more fun to watch, and the action scenes were a lot better than Fast 5, most notably the tank sequence. I fucking loved that scene. I also thought the story was a lot more interesting. Plot is Vin Diesel finds out that Michelle Rodriguez is alive, but she has amnesia, and unfortunately she's working with the bad guys, so Vin Diesel has to stop the bad guys and somehow get Michelle Rodriguez back. What's really cool about the story is that the villain also has a crew that's very similar to Vin Diesel's crew, so it's like they're fighting their evil clones. Also, the villain was a lot more memorable than Fast 5. In Fast 5, he didn't really do much, he just told other people what to do. In 6, the villain actually gets shit done. As a whole, I had a lot more fun watching this one. Sure, the plot isn't as simple as Fast 5, and the movie does slow down a few times, but the action scenes were incredible, and it overall felt like the movie had a lot more sense of urgency. It actually felt like characters were gonna die, which is funny because all these characters are basically invincible. Overall, Fast and Furious 6 is fucking awesome. Check it out. Furious 7. This is actually the one that me and my mom watched together. Me and my mom love to watch dumb movies together. I mean, just look at her. She's totally invested in this movie. Anyways, Furious 7 takes place after Fast and Furious 6 and also Tokyo Drift. Yeah, it's funny. Tokyo Drift takes place directly before Furious 6 and somewhat during. In fact, the characters from Tokyo Drift even have a cameo in this movie. I actually thought they were gonna team up with Vin Diesel, but unfortunately they didn't. In Furious 7, Jason Statham, who's the brother of the villain of the last movie, is super pissed that Vin Diesel and his crew crippled his brother, so now he's gonna seek revenge and try to kill them all and whatnot. Even though this is my second favorite Fast and Furious movies, it does have some problems. For example, even though Jason Statham is the main villain, he's not really the main focus. There's this other guy that becomes the main focus later in the movie, and sometimes you actually forget that Jason Statham is in the movie. Like, you're just sitting there watching all this nonsense and you're like, oh yeah, Jason Statham, I forgot he was in this. That being said, Jason Statham was pretty badass, so I guess it's okay. Also, The Rock isn't in the movie that much either. He's like hospitalized for most of the movie. However, when he does show up in the climax, it's glorious. Also, it's really obvious which scenes Paul Walker didn't film. I mean, it's not like The Crow where you can't even tell which scenes Brandon Lee wasn't in. Here, it's really obvious which scenes used a body double and which used CGI. And let me say, that tribute to Paul Walker at the end was killer. Man, they didn't hold back for that one. They went for the fucking jugular. They milked every last drop out of that tribute. They had flashbacks and everything. Overall, Furious 7 is a lot of fun to watch. It does have a few problems here and there, but I thought it was enjoyable overall. And it's definitely a great send-off to Paul Walker. I'd say check it out. So that was my Fast and Furious retrospective. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me just say that I don't think these are the best movies ever made. I just think these are incredibly entertaining dumb action films. And I just think a lot of people are looking at these movies the wrong way. You need to watch these movies with your brain turned off, because if you don't, then you're not gonna have a good time. Now with that said, I hope you had a good old time. Okay, it's time for me to go to bed now. I'm really sleepy.